You have told yourself you had no choice, that the situation forced your hand, that anyone would have done the same. But you know what you actually chose, and you know what it cost you. Welcome to the Stoic Compass. I am EPICTETUS, and today I am joined by Jung and LAOZI. Today we are examining, in the moment you must choose between your integrity and your survival, which one actually saves you? Let us be precise about what we mean. When I say integrity, I do not mean a feeling. I do not mean your reputation or your self-image. I mean the alignment between what you believe to be right and what you actually do. When that alignment breaks, something in you breaks with it. And no amount of survival justifies calling that break a victory.
I want to push on that framing immediately. You are presenting this as if integrity and survival are two clean, separate things a person can simply choose between. But in my experience, the moment of crisis is rarely so clear. People who betray their values often do not know they are doing it. They are not choosing compromise. They are being driven by something older and deeper than conscious choice.
You are both starting from the assumption that there is a war happening. Integrity against survival. One side must win. But most people who face this situation are not defeated by the choice. They are defeated by the framing. They see two roads and forget they are standing on ground.
Standing on ground is not an answer, LAOZI. A man is told to inform on his neighbor or lose his livelihood. A woman is told to stay silent about what she witnessed or lose her position. These are not philosophical puzzles. These are real moments. And in those moments, what you do is what you are. There is no ground beneath that. There is only the action.
And I am saying that action is not always conscious. A man who informs on his neighbor may be acting not from cowardice alone, but from a wound he has never examined. Perhaps he learned early that his survival depended on compliance. Perhaps the figure of authority in that moment carries the weight of every authority he has ever feared. He chooses, yes, but the choice is made through layers of history he cannot see.
Jung, you are making it more complicated than it is, and Epictetus, you are making it less complicated than it is. Both errors point the same direction. They both make the person feel more trapped than they need to be.
I am not interested in making people feel anything. I am interested in making them see clearly. And here is what is clear. What is in your control and what is not. Your property is not in your control. Your position is not in your control. Your body ultimately is not in your control. But your choice, your will, your assent to a course of action, that is yours. If you surrender that, you have surrendered the only thing that was ever yours to begin with.
But Epictetus, I have sat with people who have done exactly what you are describing. They held their integrity. They refused to bend. And some of them were destroyed by it, not just materially destroyed. Something in them went dark because they were not prepared for what holding the line would cost. Integrity without self-knowledge can become its own kind of rigidity. And rigidity, I have found, has its own shadow.
That is closer to something real. The person who holds the line, because they are afraid of what giving it up will make them, is not the same as the person who holds it because they understand what they are. One is grasping, the other is simply being what they are.
I agree that fear is a poor foundation, but the solution is not to wait until you have perfect self-knowledge before you act with integrity. You could wait forever. The solution is to train yourself now, before the crisis arrives, so that in the moment, the choice is already made. Integrity is not a decision you make under pressure. It is a decision you make 1,000 times in ordinary life so that when pressure comes, there is nothing left to decide.
That is a useful discipline, I do not deny it. But it does not account for the person who was never given the chance to train, who grew up in a household where integrity was punished, where survival meant becoming small, invisible, agreeable. For that person, the moment of crisis is not about recalling a decision already made. It is the first time the decision has ever been truly available to them, and they may not even recognize it as a choice.
Then the question is not which one saves you. The question is whether you can see what is actually in front of you when the moment comes. Because most people in that moment are not seeing the moment. They are seeing every other moment like it. They are already in the past.
And that is exactly why you must do the work before the moment arrives. You are agreeing with me, LAOZI, from a different angle.
I am not agreeing with you. I am saying something different. You believe training shapes the will, so the will can act. I am saying that sometimes the most powerful thing is not an act of will at all. It is the absence of panic. It is stillness in the moment so that you can actually see what is there, rather than what you fear is there.
And I would add, what you have always feared is there, because the shadow has a way of projecting itself onto the present moment. The authority we fear most is often not the one in front of us. It is the one we internalized long ago.
Then both of you are saying the same thing in different languages. Prepare, see clearly, know yourself. Fine. But I want to return to the original question because we have been dancing around it. Which one actually saves you? And I will tell you what I think. Survival without integrity does not save you. It produces a version of you that must now live with what it did. And that version, I promise you, is not saved. It is haunted.
And yet integrity without survival means you are no longer there to live by your values. I'm not arguing for compromise. I'm arguing for nuance. There is a difference between the person who bends strategically to survive so that they can continue to resist and the person who simply collapses.
That distinction is real. The reed that bends in the wind is not the same as the reed that is uprooted. One survives with its nature intact, the other is simply gone.
Good, but here is where I draw the line with both of you. You are allowing too much room for the mind to negotiate with itself. Most people do not bend strategically. They tell themselves they are bending strategically while they are simply bending. The story comes after. The rationalization comes after. The person who says, "I compromised so I could live to fight another day," is often just the person who compromised and then wrote a story that made it bearable.
That is true and important, and it is exactly why self-examination matters. Not to give people permission to compromise, but to help them see whether what they are calling strategy is actually fear wearing a reasonable face.
You are both circling the center without stepping into it. The center is this. The person who knows what they are does not experience the choice as a war between integrity and survival. They see what is in front of them. They act from what they are. The war only exists for the person who is not sure who they are.
Then identity is the preparation. Knowing what you are before the moment comes is the only real defense.
Yes, and knowing what you are includes knowing what you are afraid of, knowing what you have buried, knowing what part of you might sabotage the choice you consciously want to make.
And knowing that you cannot always know. Some moments arrive before you are ready. And in those moments, what you have is not training or self-knowledge. What you have is what you are, nothing more, nothing less.
Which is why what you are matters more than anything else. You do not rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of what you have actually built inside yourself.
I would only say, do not assume you know what you have built. Most people are surprised by themselves in both directions.
The surprise is not the problem. The refusal to look at what the surprise reveals, that is the problem.
Then let us stop arguing about the moment and speak directly to the person who will face it. Here is the truth no one tells you about the integrity versus survival dilemma. It is not actually a dilemma. It feels like one because you are measuring the wrong things. You are measuring what you might lose against what you might keep. But the thing you are afraid of losing, your income, your position, your safety, none of that was ever fully in your control. It was always at risk. What is in your control is what you do when the pressure arrives. And if you have not decided that before the moment comes, you will decide it in the worst possible conditions, while afraid, while exhausted, while the world is pressing down on you. This is what survival without integrity actually produces. You keep the job, you keep the house, you keep the relationship, but you now have to live inside a self that you do not fully respect. And that cost compounds. Every future decision gets made by a person who already knows what they did once under pressure. That knowledge changes you, not all at once, but steadily. Integrity does not guarantee your safety. I will not lie to you about that. But it preserves the one thing that cannot be taken without your permission. Your own account of who you are. Today, try this. Identify one area of your life where you have been tolerating a small compromise. Not a crisis, just a place where what you are doing and what you believe are slightly out of alignment. Name it plainly. Then ask yourself, what would it look like to close that gap by even 10% this week? Do not wait for the large moment to practice being who you are. Start now in the ordinary. You came into this episode asking which one saves you. Now you know the question was never really about survival. It was always about what you are willing to be. The person who loses everything and keeps their integrity is still standing on something solid. The person who keeps everything and loses it is standing on air and calling it ground. You will face the moment. Maybe not today, but it is coming. And when it arrives, you will not rise to it. You will fall to whatever you have built. So build carefully. Build now. That is the only preparation that has ever mattered. If today's conversation has served you, take it further. Pay Attention by C. Trebu, 12 Lessons in the Practice of Seeing Clearly. Available now on Amazon.